So basically, yeah, we watched a film called The Red Pill, which is a documentary by, originally, well, when she started it, she was a feminist. And let's just say it didn't stay that way throughout the duration of the movie.
Wow, spoilers.
I've never seen a woman go through so much documented cognitive dissonance in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's awesome. You begin watching it, and she's like, feminist is this, and obviously feminism might be that, back in the 60s and 70s, but the narrative has just kept on, continuing over the last several years, and it's morphed underneath people's noses to something a little bit different. It's almost like a roller coaster ride, except it's all downhill. Her attitude, I mean, just watching her like break down and cry and just like looking into the camera and having to get revalidated at like a woman's meeting and stuff like that.
She looked like a kid who'd just been told Santa isn't real. I think the biggest thing to come out of this is they somehow managed to fucking dig up Big Red from somewhere.
Jesus Christ, what grave? Where? Where was she on Tumblr? What was her URL?
Judging by the size of the mouth, she's probably hiding in like an alligator pit.
Oh.
Maybe in a fishbowl somewhere.
Oh, well, I mean, we joke about it, but actually a lot of the stuff in the documentary is, like, heartbreaking, genuinely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough watch, regardless of your politics. And if you know people who have gone through some of the same shit that some of the men in these videos have, it's extremely hard to watch.
Mm-hmm. And I think all of us know somebody who's been through something that they go over in the video, which they also, they say in the video, nobody seems to take these seriously. It happens right in front of our eyes, and yet people are so cerebral.
Well, you remember that one video where it's like they have two actors, a male and a female, and they just go out in public, and like the woman starts the man starts beating the shit out of the woman, and everyone just runs to the side and pulls the guy away, and they're like, "We're gonna call the cops," And they reverse it, so the woman's just slapping the shit out of the man, and everybody walks by just starts laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's really getting it. What did he do wrong?
Probably forgot to buy tampons.
I told you, extra large. Ah! Damn, if you need anything bigger, it's gonna be a fucking guinea pig.
Jesus.
Armageddon. But coming from someone who has a couple of close friends who have gone through the same type of shit, and a family member who is extremely near and dear to me, who also went through the same, case of women just completely tearing them down, both emotionally and physically, and then eventually legally when the man tries to leave, and the woman doesn't like that.
I'll tell people you did this to me, that you hit me.
But that's not true.
But that's what people will believe, Dan. I'll make them believe me.
So it's really, really tough to watch, because I can see these people, these close friends and family of mine, going through the exact same shit that the men this video go through.
Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that the police even would say to the men. If she starts beating you up again, you better get out of there, because if she so much as breaks a fingernail trying to punch you, we'll arrest you.
Yep.
But the thing is, in this documentary, so some of the stories they have are not, just one-off things. I've heard loads of stories about women who use their kids, in order to get money or power over men.
Mm-hmm.
And even this one guy, Fred Hayward, he was talking about how his wife was basically torturing him with the kid that they had together, that she forced him to have, tricked him into having. And eventually he had to just give up the fight because he couldn't afford the legal fees and he was getting sick. And apparently the mother was intentionally making the kid obese.
Yeah.
Which, again, isn't a one-off thing, because I've heard loads of cases of that. It sounds really weird, but I've known other cases of women doing that. Yeah, the YouTuber
Boogie's mom did it.
Yeah, said that that's what she used to do to him to make sure that he wouldn't leave her.
Yeah, it's a severe personality disorder where the mother, in order so that the child doesn't leave, even though like maybe the husband may have left or something like that, so that she can regain some control over the child, she intentionally like makes him fat so he can't leave the house, so he can't go out and have a girlfriend. So it's almost like a sick, twisted Norman Bates proto thing. It's fucked up. Except a fatter Norman Bates wouldn't be able to squeeze into the bathroom door to kill a woman, but
and we call that personality disorder sociopath.
Narcissism too.
And the best thing about this documentary is whenever she goes to interview the feminists about, you know, what the things that she's learnt, they're like, oh, well, you know, they like to skew the numbers. And I'm like, I don't know how you can put a different spin on a 99.9% casualty in a war.
Yeah. The ratio of like men to women is like 99.9999%. Men die in wars compared to women, except the Persian Gulf, because that one was a lot more equal. It was about 95% of men died versus like 5% of women.
Equality!
Yay! We're making that progressive march forward, ladies. Now we just need to get more of you to die in wars and more of you sent off to jail.
And, you know, like they said, you know, when it comes to employment, nobody's complaining that there aren't enough, you know, female ditch diggers or whatever.
Well, I mean, Bill Burr has the best joke about this. Modern feminism is basically women in a buffet. It's like, let's see, voting rights, yep, want some of that. Let's see, reproductive rights, want some of that. Draft, no, you can keep that shit, fuck that shit. It's not about being necessarily equal, it's about being almost better than equal in a lot of ways.
The commander of the Marine Corps said that he thinks, and I quote, all eligible and qualified men and women should register for the draft, talking about selective service. Do you think women should also have to register for selective service like men?
I have to think about whether I think it's necessary to go as far as our military officers are recommending. The idea of having everybody register concerns me a little bit unless we have a better idea of where that's going to come out.
Voting rights, check. Reproductive rights, check. Draft rights.
Have you guys seen those Twitter feeds where, like, they recently made it so that women were eligible for the draft? Then all of a sudden all these women are tweeting saying, I don't know if I want equality anymore.
I think the funniest one was it was someone saying, I'm gender fluid, will they accept me? And then someone just replies and says, luckily they don't accept nutcases.
And you know, there was a part in it as well where she was interviewing a feminist, and this woman was apparently like an editor of a magazine or something.
Ms. Magazine.
Yeah, Catherine Spiller. And you know, the Cassie Jaye, the presenter, said to her, do you think men are discriminated against? And she said, not under the law. And then it goes on to have a whole section about how actually they get 63% more sentencing time than women for the same crime. And domestic violence cases are always skewed against the men, and they barely ever have rights to their own children.
Oh, Nat, you even showed me that post you posted on Facebook where it's like the Australian, like...
Oh, I saw this as well.
Central abuse hotline. If you're a woman and you're being abused, call this number for help. And then if you're a man and you're abusing somebody, call this number. And it's like, wait a minute. What if you're the man you're being abused? Because I'm sorry, but violence is violence. I mean, again, I know feminists don't like egalitarianism according to the last night fiasco, but there's a point where, you know, violence is just violence. Nobody should be beating up anybody. And again, knowing too many men who have been on the receiving end of the abuse, and the cops won't do anything, and the lawyers won't do anything, the judges are against the man in all cases, like, oh, well, if she hit you, then obviously you did something to instigate it. It's like, no. As Erin Pizzey, the English woman who started, I think, the first domestic violence shelter in England, said, you know, women can be just as violent as men, if not more so.
Yeah, and now she's not even allowed into the building that she bought because the owner is a feminist and she doesn't agree with her point of view.
Yep, it's because the ideology trumps everything. The money trumps everything.
There's also, like, a lot of TV shows, not right now, but I remember growing up I used to see, like, soaps in the UK. They would show a storyline of, like, oh, yeah, it's an abusive parent, it's the mother. But it's never really the biological mother, it was always, like, the stepmother.
Oh, the
Yes.
the fairy tale trope.
And it's even in Disney films as well.
Yep.
Now, all the feminists, whenever she would interview the feminists, and these are supposedly scholars, their arguments were just straw man arguments, no true Scotsman, all of the fallacies were their arguments.
They ask a question like, oh no, that's not true, they're just being big babies.
That's a deflection if there ever was one.
Well, like the sociologist Michael Kimmel, basically all of his arguments were straw man arguments. And, you know, you're watching it and you're thinking, none of the MRAs are saying any of this. We're watching the same, you know, footage.
Yeah, the MRAs are saying, you know, we need men's shelters and women's shelters, not let's take away all the women's shelters because this is a fabricated, overblown situation. Oh, everybody's abused, take away all the shelters. No, both sexes need domestic violence shelters because, again, violence is fucking violence.
2,000 domestic violence shelters in the US, almost all of them take women. and almost all of them turn men away.
Yep.
Yeah, I think only one takes men, doesn't it?
Yeah, out in Arkansas. In Arkansas of all fucking places. Arkansas is leading the progressive change.
And then I think there's one opening up in Dallas as well, if I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that'd be nice.
And the thing is, as well, the guy Michael Kimmel was saying, no, well, the feminists aren't against men having their own shelters. And it's like, no, they will literally protest male-only shelters. We've seen cases of this.
Well, they protest male-only clubs. I can't remember exactly what school it is. I'll find it later. But they're going to create like a men's club, like a YMCA kind of thing at a college campus. And of course, it's college campus, go figure. But this is a couple of years ago, before this entire thing spilled over into the SJWs and the screeching.
This was when it was still on Tumblr. This is when it was Tumblr only.
This is when Tumblr was in its infancy. It didn't transgress into real life. But they wanted to create like a men's club area, and the women's club said they didn't want the men's club on campus. And it's like, okay, now if you took any of these, if you took the genders and did a thought experiment and swapped all of them,
Suddenly, headlines all over MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. Men are evil and they hate women on campus.
Dr. Phil will be on fucking Oprah being like, women are smart, men are stupid.
Come on, guys, it's the current year.
Women are from Venus, men are from hell.
Well, I mean, you see in the video, again, Michael Kimmel, who's this big sociologist feminist, who says, surely the MRA should join with feminists. And it's like, but they don't want to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. It's the feminists who are always shutting down the MRAs. You see them in the documentary coming to all their protests shouting anti-gay, racist, homophobic, white supremacist.
Racist, sexist, anti-gay, MRA, go away.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Seuss.
But okay, the sexist part of that, you could argue that that could be an open argument. It's fucking dumb, but you can argue it.
Where's that eject button? Who are you?
But how can you be racist if it's based on gender, and how can you be gay if it's based on gender? Mm-hmm. Anti-gay.
Yeah, well, and the lady she was trying to give a speech, and there were people in the back just banging like pots and pans and just making loads of noise, and she made the perfect argument, which is, if you're so sure about your points, why aren't you open for discussion?
I was gonna say this kind of sounds like the VidCon thing recently, but again, another discussion for another day.
The shitcon.
Fucking, I mean, it's just fucking amazing. Like, they have this Warren Farrell guy, and he wrote the myth of male power, which makes some valid points about, sure, women are seen as sex objects, but men are seen as success objects, where women are obviously coveted for their beauty and their sexual prowess, and they're biologically usually the caregivers, but men are, in contrast, seen as like the providers, and they're the ones who will almost like work themselves to death in many cases to provide for their families. Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, the scene is more expendable.
Right, and that's what kind of Warren Farrell argues about in the documentary. I haven't read his book, but I have bought it.
Well, he says that in the 60s he started off as a feminist.
Yes.
And he'd get invited to all of these, speaking events, and he'd loads of pats on the backs from other feminists. As soon as he started speaking up for the men, then...
But again, he started off like, talking about women's issues, and then he started seeing some men's issues, and he's like, okay, I'll do an equal presentation. And he said in the documentary, and then all of a sudden the standing ovations just started to quiet. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, yeah, that's because you're going against the narrative. You're going against this industry of victimhood. And that's what Erin Pizzey, the English lady, said. It became an industry.
But my feminisms.
I mean, how else do you expect, people like Anita Sarkeesian, and bring her up again for the umpteenth time, but she just managed to stick her big nose in the news again. But how else do you expect people like them to make money if they don't have a way to capitalize on their victimhood?
They just need to attack the garbage people. That's all they have to do.
The garbage humans. Well, that's the perfect analogy for this, is that Anita Sarkeesian was just hurling abuse at him, and Sargon was just like, I just want to talk. I just want to have a discussion. But no.
I mean, they will eat their own kind, feminism.
Well, yeah. Look at Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon, Cassie Jaye, and even Lacey Green.
Yes. And all Lacey Green has done is said, I'm open to having discussions with the other side.
And they don't want that.
That's the whole thing. They do not want discussion. They are completely opposed to the idea of discussion, because deep down they must know that their arguments are complete bullshit.
That's exactly why they don't want the discussion. I mean, you saw the panel at VidCon, and I guess we're getting into that now. Timely. And Anita Sarkeesian and the rest of these, I don't know if they're all feminists though, but obviously they had that mindset. And this one person in the back asked a question, are you guys up for, a conversation and debate? Or, are you up to having your thoughts challenged? And they're like, yeah, we're up for all kinds of debate. And then they wouldn't let hardly anyone talk after that, because if they bring up even a question, they're like, oh, that's a sexist question. Get that person out of the queue. We're not gonna answer this question. It's like, it's a perfectly legitimate question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been all like this for a while. And I'm gonna bring up a bad word here. It's like GamerGate. Ever since then, it's been like people have said, "Oh, debate me," and they're just like radio silence, just like, "Yeah, I'll debate you. Hang on, let me just get my car and drive away from here and they go away now."
Let me just get blocked.
Blocked, nerd.
I mean, even I think somebody was saying, when Anita Sarkeesian called Sargon a garbage human, I think that's the only time she's ever directly responded to any of her critics.
Yes. But it's just amazing how in the open marketplace of ideas, if you have a good philosophy, you should welcome debate, because it either strengthens your philosophy or it makes you forge a new one. But the problem is their philosophy is of victimhood and of things like ad hominem attacks. Oh, you're just a racist or a sexist or a Nazi or anything like that. And then they don't have to debate you, and they can retain the high ground and still get to play the victimhood card without being challenged properly, because they know that their opinions cannot be challenged directly.
You know who else had a victimhood complex? Nazi Germany. You know who else? You know who else had having arguments and seeing other opinions? Nazi Germany.
Godwin's Law, we just lost, Wade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And now I'm doing the same thing of comparing something that is nowhere near close to being a Nazi to Nazis.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a terrible human being. Garbage human.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the most blatant example of sexism is just the production around the film, not even in the stuff in the film itself.
Yeah, it was funded by a white supremacist, Nazi-hating, women-hating, everyone-hating person, Mike Kernovich.
The director struggled to find any feminist groups who would fund the documentary. All of her funding, $10,000 of it came from Mike Cernovich. It received support from Milo Yiannopoulos. But all of the feminist people she called up, pretty much all of them, she said, had an agenda.
Duh.
And do you know what that gender was? The gender was female.
Well, and then even then, just screening it, all the protests at all the screenings, people trying to shut it down because apparently it promotes female violence.
Did you guys see that one guy in the Australian video just dancing to their chant?
And then beyond even that, the critical response, apparently Rotten Tomatoes doesn't have enough reviews to have an aggregate, because there's just not enough people reviewing the movie because barely anyone has seen it. It's like they're actively trying to bury this. We can't let this get out because everyone will see how much bullshit we're talking.
Well, it's doing pretty good on IMDb with an 8.8, so that's pretty good.
I wonder how it's doing on Netflix right now. I'll wait.
Oh, no.
They'd rather have shows on there like Dear White People.
Bill Nye saves the world. Woo.
But the Amazon Prime has this available to watch for free.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody has Amazon Prime, not only are you getting 2-day shipping, and I don't want to make them sound like we're an affiliate, but if you guys have the Amazon Prime, you guys can watch this documentary for free. I strongly suggest that if you watch it and you like it, send a copy to somebody who could use it.
Yes.
Okay? Like, again, I know plenty of men who have been completely destroyed in the courts by feminists. Because all you got, it's like that Cyanide and Happiness comic where the little girl runs in and to her mom, right? It says, "Mommy, Daddy kissed me on my button." And mom's like, "What'd you say?" And she's like, "Daddy kissed me on my button." And the mom's like, "Okay, now when the cops come, make sure you say that exactly like that. Then you and me can be together forever." You would not believe how many women pull that shit on a guy, and the cops immediately assume that it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's especially when there's like a history of like domestic abuse, and even like if a cop comes in and sees that like, there's evidence that the woman may have instigated a lot of it, the cop still doesn't do anything. And then the judge is just, every judge thinks every woman fighting for custody is a hard case. Now, obviously, benefit of the doubt, I admire that part though, but they never give it to the men. They always assume that the man is a piece of shit, and that maybe nothing ever happened with the woman.
See, I'm wondering how many gender studies classes are willing to show this film to their students.
I'm going to guess 2. And that's being very, very, very,
generous.
very, very...
Yes!
One eternity later, very generous. No, give or take 3. There might be one that just like right out of the bands it. Like if you even mention it, bam, off the course.
There might be 2 gender studies classes that allow this, but there's a 2-group margin of error.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the filmmaker, she was kind of like, I think the turning point for her was she started to kind of get red-pilled a lot throughout the film, but I think the turning point was when she had to see the circumcision of the baby. That was gross as fuck, disturbing, and disgusting.
I could watch that probably 1,000 times, that documentary, but I'll probably always still like cringe and like seize up and not want to move whenever that bit comes on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a Penn and Teller's bullshit episode of circumcision, and it's also pretty shocking because they show, like, you know, as much as they can for, you know, Showtime back in the early 2000s, and they go into description about like how the baby actually goes into shock from the amount of pain, and it shows this baby just shuddering, like it can't cry anymore, it's just shaking and its eyes are wide open and it's like traumatized.
Yeah, there is like circumcision board. It's like a cutting board, except you strap the baby in. Mm-hmm. And it looks worse than the machine when Captain America was in the first movie.
It looks like the machine from Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, and these circumcisions that she was shown don't even include the Jewish priest sucking on the baby's penis
and giving it herpes.
And as well, very like recently, like within like a few like months or weeks within the film like being released onto the web, a report came out that showed that there was a psychological trauma from having a circumcision. Like it caused psychological trauma.
Then you look into that, Google that shit.
Boom, got it right now. Circumcision in childhood and adolescence has significant negative psychological consequences. The results of the study indicate that circumcision was perceived as an aggressive attack on the body that left children feeling damaged and mutilated.
Yeah.
And it only recently got reported again. It's been known for a while apparently, but it's only been like reported again recently.
Well, it's disgusting. I mean, if I was a mother, there is no way I would let you cut off a piece of my baby.
Well, see, Natalie, what you need to do is instead of having your child circumcised, just give it some Kellogg's cornflakes.
Well, I mean, do they even give the baby any anesthetic?
No, I don't think they do.
No,
they're too young. It's too young.
It is absolutely disgusting. I don't know how anyone could condone this.
You didn't get the joke about the Kellogg's cornflakes, huh?
No, I did. The John Harvey Kellogg.
Yes, he was a notorious sex negative. Well, he had a negative opinion about sex, and baby boys are known to, like, you know, use certain things as stress relief. And even into...
Oh my god. Oh, no, stop. No, I don't want to think about this again.
But no, that's what circumcision was for, is to keep boys from being able to masturbate.
Oh, they got to stop the masturbation, eh? Goy?
Jesus Christ. I just got that when you say goy. But should we wrap this up just by saying that this is a documentary that's well worth your time and your $3 to rent, and certainly... if you find it interesting, be sure to forward it to somebody who could use it.
Watch it now. Do it. If you see someone's like, hey, you're a terrible person, just be like, no, I'm not a garbage human. Watch this.
Yeah, just watch it, share it, do whatever you can to get as many people as possible to watch it, because it is something that I feel is necessary, especially today.
You know, the scariest thing is Natalie's actually more red pill than both of us.
Is she though?
I think she is.
Wait, why?
Just the reaction that you had when you were watching this video.
What, she's like, oh, yep, that's true. Mm-hmm.
No, she was... I never heard a woman say the C word so often.
Try working in McDonald's.
Working in McDonald's, yes. The only person who said cunt more is the creator of Minecraft, but we'll get to that in another episode. But
that's called the cube pill.
It's a little bit harder to swallow.
It's a suppository.
Yes.
When we swing on your brother.